Reggie, when you were watching this unfold and this courtship taking place, were you kind of putting yourself in LeBron's position to a certain extent, or some of these other free agents in their position as you looked and watched this unfold and some guys jumped to new teams?
Well, I'm on both sides of the fence here. You're speaking, as you alluded to a guy who spent 18 years for one organization, and I would have loved to see LeBron James stay in a small market. I think when you have a parity in the league and you have the great players in smaller markets, not everyone can play for New York, LA, Chicago, Miami. But when you have a true superstar, arguably the best player in the league like LeBron James, playing for a small market, it means so much. See, Webb, he can kind of understand this when he played in Sacramento. When you play in a small market and fans, they live and die by everything you do. To me, him going down to Miami, jumping on the bandwagon of D. Wade and Chris Bosh, that's great. It's going to be great basketball to see. But for me personally, I would love to see him win a championship and stay in Cleveland.
Reg, E. Snow, how you doing?
How you doing, E?
Just tell me from your perspective of what do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers in their franchise are, how they're feeling for a team to, like what I feel, did a lot for him. Let's say you do it for a lot for players, but they did a lot for him. What do you think is the ramifications for that?
I'm wondering where Dan Gilbert and the rest of the Cleveland Cavalier organization goes from here. Right now, I'm sure that their throats are in their stomachs, their heads are down. You guys have all talked about them doing everything in their power to surround LeBron James with championship caliber. Look, guys, they've had the best record in the league the last 2 seasons, and they were never able to get out of the Eastern Conference. So if I'm LeBron, I'm frustrated from that standpoint. But from the Cleveland Cavalier standpoint, what else could they do? I think their campaign was fantastic, talking about home, grew up in the Akron area. You're from Northeast Iowa, Cleveland, or Ohio, E. You understand what the fans are all about. It's frustrating. But personally, I think 3 or 4 championships in Miami, to me, is equivalent to 1 championship in Cleveland, just because they are a starving franchise city, and they would have appreciated it more if the king would have stayed.
Reggie, Lawrence Frank, as you referred to back, obviously you faced a very similar situation as a high-level player, as a franchise player. How torn were you going through the same process in regards to chasing maybe a championship with a team that maybe had more, was in their prime, versus staying with the Pacers?
Well, if you listen to LeBron, he's talking about it's not about the money, it's about winning championships and winning rings. That I get, and that I understand. There's one thing on my resume that I'll never, ever have. Same with Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, John Stockton. All superstar players. I'm not a superstar player, but those guys are superstars that are without championship rings. This is LeBron James' 8th season coming up, and he has 0 jewelry. So I understand him wanting to go somewhere else and win a championship. It's not guaranteed. I think there's only really been one model case, and that's the Boston Celtics, when you put 3 superstars together and they end up winning the championship. But to me, it's going to be all about the pieces now that I think Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra surround these 3 superstars with. They're not going to have a ton of money to go out and get players. The supporting players are going to have to sacrifice, which they will, to be on TV every other day, whether it's our network or ESPN, ABC, whatever, because the Miami Heat, they're the it ticket now with these 3 guys, so they'll find players. To me, it's the supporting cast that they surround them if they're going to be able to be championship caliber.
Hey, Reggie, it's Chris Webber, and first of all, let me correct you. You were the superstar, one of the best players to play this game. You're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. But second, if I could just talk to you about just the conversation in sports, and this is just our opinion. By you being an old school player, one that had to play against the Jordans and the great players of all time, and you not having won a championship, What do you think the conversation is between ex-players, between fans, between media, as far as that old conversation of who's next in line for the crown? Now, I'm not saying anyone is better than Michael, because I still think he's the best, but we still talk about Kobe having 5 champions. And you alluded to earlier that 3 championships in Miami equal 1. And I totally agree to you. Can you speak to as far as his legacy? How does this affect LeBron's legacy by going there and joining those other people, as far as in the eyes of fans?
He's the best player in the league, but can we put him now in the same category of a Michael Jordan, who never left Chicago, a Larry Bird, who never left Boston, a Magic Johnson, who won 5 championship rings and has been an executive with the Lakers to win, what, another 4 or 5 in the same breath? No, because if he would have stayed in Cleveland and won 1 championship built around him, we would have put him on Mount Rushmore. He probably would have won 1 or 2 in Cleveland. But you go to Miami, and it's great. I get it. I cannot wait to call games in South Beach to watch these 3 players play. But now you're going to a situation where Dwayne Wade has already won a championship, where he was the man. You had guys jumping on the bandwagon to go to Miami, Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Gary Payton, to win a championship, which they did in 05 against Dallas, where Dwayne Wade was the man. He's the Derek Jeter down there. Now you've got Alex Rodriguez, who is LeBron James, who's going to be making more money, who has more stature, more MVPs coming in. It's still Dwayne Wade's team.